All right, so quick thoughts on that Miami Virginia Tech game, kind of a reaction. I'm obviously not home, not in the studio right now. I'm actually in Tuscaloosa for the big game tomorrow or today if you're watching this on Saturday against Georgia. Um, just some real quick thoughts and kind of, you can't start anywhere, but with the ending, I think a couple of things can be true. I don't think it was a catch. I don't I promise you, I wanted Virginia Tech to win. Canes fans, like I think I can be objective here, but I don't think it was a catch. At the same time, I don't think they followed protocol because I don't know that the 5 minute replay review and the views and the angles that we got were indisputable. And so I think both those things exist at the same time. And so you have to ask yourself, would you, as a fan of a neutral, right? Like if you were a Virginia Tech fan or a Miami fan or somebody that didn't like one of those teams, you're obviously going to have a bias. But if you're not a fan of either of those teams and you don't care, would you rather the call be correct at the end of the day, or would you rather the protocols and the rules be followed? If you'd rather the call be correct, then I think you wanted it to be called incomplete, because I do think it was incomplete. The ball was bouncing around. He never really possessed it well on the ground. I mean, it was loose. So if that's the case, then you want it to be incomplete. If you want the protocols to be followed, and you just want it to be done the right way, then maybe you wanted it to the call to be upheld because there wasn't enough there on replay. I don't actually think many people care about either one of those things. I don't think anybody really cares about it being right or it being protocol followed. If there's a bad protocol, then wanting it to be followed just for the sake of it being followed is kind of dumb to me. And again, I was somebody that did not, I wanted that to be a Virginia Tech touchdown. And so that's why I think I can be pretty honest with this. But at the end of the day, I've never thought that indisputable evidence was a good call. Why are we basing the final outcome on what may have been missed on the field, right? Why are we using what is being challenged as our litmus test, as our standard? And so I have never loved that. It's got to be indisputable evidence. No, just go to the replay and look at what you see and call what you see. It doesn't matter what was called on the field. Just call what you see. That's always been my take with replay. And then if you can't tell, then defer to what happened on the field. But I've never been a big fan of, it's got to be indisputable. Why? Just call what you see. If you're 98% sure that you see something, you're not 100%, just call it the way that makes sense. That never made sense to me. So, but again, I don't think people actually care about doing it right, or I don't think people actually care about protocols being followed. I think at the end of the day, we root for things that we want. And so if you wanted to see Miami win, then you say, well, they may not follow protocol, but at least they got the call right. And if you wanted to see Miami lose, then you say, they might have got the call right, but they didn't follow the protocol they should have. And so really they should have, even though it was a bad call, we should have kept it as a touchdown because that's how it was called on the field. In what world? As somebody who, again, I can't repeat it enough, somebody who wanted Miami to lose, what world are we in where we say, we want a bad call to be upheld because that's the way, the ref missed it on the field, and so we want that to be upheld? That doesn't make any sense to me at all. Now, if you're a Miami hater, you certainly did want that. If you're a Miami lover, you wanted it to go the way that it did go. And so congrats to Miami. Hey, they were gutty. They found a way to win. They weren't very good tonight. I'll take that back. They showed, certain points of the game, they were really good. Cam Ward was off early. He certainly turned it on late and kind of showed you that he's one of the most dynamic players in the game, right? And I think that's pretty easy to see. Some of the plays he made were ridiculous. The Restrepo catch was ridiculous. The pass where he should have been sacked twice and that got him down inside the 2 was absolutely ridiculous. I thought that was, he proved he was really, really good. The Canes got a lot of things that they need to fix. That secondary that we worried about this year was really bad, and I think they finally got to, they faced the best quarterback that they've faced all year. They faced the best, the best team, I guess, ish, right? I think USF's a really good team. I think Florida's got a lot of talent, but they've got a lot of things to clean up. I mean, fortunately for Miami, they don't play a lot of great teams. But if they play like that against Louisville on the road, or they play like that on the road against Georgia Tech, or I have a hard time thinking, even as a Florida State guy, that they could lose to Florida State because I think they'll play better. But yeah, they have things they need to clean up. But they have things they need to clean up, and they were able to come out with a win today. And so that's a big deal. Anytime you can find a way to win when you're not playing your best, that is a big deal. I thought defensively they stepped up when it mattered. I thought they were, they did a good job on not necessarily the last drive because they nearly gave up the touchdown, and Virginia Tech was slow, but it did move the ball down the field kind of at will. You're playing bend don't break there for sure. But the second to last drive where they sacked Drones and they got Virginia Tech off the field a couple of times to end up giving the ball back to Cam Ward, and they ended up taking the lead. That was a big deal. And it felt like Virginia Tech just couldn't put them away. I have huge issues with the way that Pride called this game and coached this game. First of all, at the end of this would have won them the game, right? And I'm not playing the if game, but Miami was extremely fortunate. For all the criticism that Mario gets for being a bad game day coach, Brent Pry is terrible. He's now 1-10 in one-score games, and here's why. Tonight, on third down, with 25 seconds left, they get stopped, and he calls a timeout. He calls a timeout and then kicks a field goal. And his kicker booms the field goal through. And it leaves Miami with 20 seconds left. And then he squibs the kick so that Miami has excellent field position. They get a first down or two, and they boom a long field goal. Guess what? If you'd have not done that and you had those 3 points for Miami off the board, you're going down to kick a field goal there at the end. You're not going down for the touchdown, and you win the game like that. So that was horrible. Why you would call a timeout with 25 seconds left and basically say hey, Miami, do you want an extra possession here, and give that to them? It would have been even worse if his kicker had missed the field goal, because then Miami would have had the ball 20 yards away and you wouldn't have gotten the benefit of the 3 points. At least they just split that. But that was a horrible decision by Brent Pry. Really bad there. And then it happened again. When they had the interception return, it felt like that could have been the knockout blow if Virginia Tech could have gotten the ball in the end zone. They didn't. On 4th and 3, they attempt a fake field goal, in obvious go for it position, right? That's a position where the ESPN analytics would tell you to go for it. When you're attempting a fake, when the ESPN analytics are telling you to go for it, they had the fake safe, they had the safe field goal team out there. They were waiting for that fake. And so there's 3 more points, right? If you had kicked that field goal and not given Miami the field goal at the end of the half, you'd have been, when Cam Ward scored that last touchdown or threw that last touchdown, you'd have still been winning at that point. And you'd have had the ball back with 2 minutes to go, or they'd had an onside kick it and hopefully get that back. He cost his team the game with those 2 calls. It's not even close. He was atrocious. He was horrible tonight. And, late game, they let so much clock tick off. If they'd have let that 30 seconds and if they'd have called a timeout, Brent Pry was absolutely atrocious tonight. And it's kind of a disservice to his team because his players played well enough to win. Now, they made mistakes and they weren't great at times, but you go in as a 20-point dog on the road at Miami against Cam Ward and this really good team that everybody thinks is going to win the ACC or go to the playoff, and your kids are fighting, and you totally took them out of having a chance to win. Miami went out and won it. I'm not trying to take away from Miami's win at all, but Brent Pry was absolutely terrible. 1-10 in one-score games. He's got to get fired. There's no chance that he cannot remain on at Virginia Tech. He cost his team the game tonight. Could their defense have been better? Absolutely. They're playing one of the best offenses in college football, though. I think they did fine. They stole multiple possessions down in the red zone from Miami. Forced Cam Ward into 3 turnovers. Several sacks. I thought that Virginia Tech's defense did all they could. And once Miami's offense got going and got, heated up and warmed up, they were going to be hard to stop. But I think VT's defense was really good. I thought their offense was really good. Obviously, the kicker was really good and nailing field goals from 50-plus yards. They were good all over the place. Where they weren't good was coaching. And again, Miami left points out there on the board too. I'm not trying to say that Miami doesn't turn the ball. Miami scores a touchdown and gets it called back on a holding call and throws a pick on the next play. And Virginia Tech didn't score on that, but Miami left points out there too. So I'm not trying to say that, it was just all, my point is not that Virginia Tech should have won or, whatever. But I'm telling you, literally just what is the rationale? If anybody in the comments can help me with this, Miami fan or Miami hater or whoever you are, what is the rationale for calling a timeout with 25 seconds left to go in the first half and giving Miami an extra possession? If you're going to kick that field goal, it was 4th and 10. Somebody said like, oh, well, he might have been trying to figure out who's going to go for it or not. You wouldn't go for that. Like there was no chance you were going to go for it. If you were thinking, you could have let the clock run out if you didn't want to kick it or go for it. But why? What is the rationale for giving Miami that extra possession? Because it ended up costing you. Like going for that extra possession was the absolute dumbest thing you could have ever done. Again, you give Miami 3 points at the end of the half. They score there. If you let that clock tick down to 0, right, or 1, and kick it with 1, if it's missed, half's over. Who cares? If he makes it, half's over. You're up 10 instead of 3. If he didn't do that, then Virginia Tech's driving down for the game-winning field goal instead of the game-winning touchdown, right? They'd have been down 1 point at that moment. And so, yeah, it cost his team there, and then it cost his team with the fake, right? And obviously fakes are, if you get it, then, but you were up 10 at that moment, as a 20-point dog on the road, and you could have gone up 13. And again, Miami might have scored the next 2 touchdowns, just like they did, and might have taken a 1-point lead. But then again, you're driving down for the game-winning field goal. If he had done both those things, his team would have been winning when Miami scored their last touchdown. Miami would have needed an onside kick to beat them, right? And so could Miami have gotten an onside kick? Maybe, right? Like they've got athletes, I get it. But onside kicks are what, maybe like 2%, 5%, like you're getting those back. Pride cost his team the game tonight, and it was atrociously bad. Credit to Miami. They fought. They didn't look great tonight at certain moments. Cam Ward struggled at times. Once he got it going, he was really, really good. And so credit to them. They can learn lessons while losing a game. While winning a game and avoiding losing. Like that's huge. Like that's a big part of some of the breaks you need to go your way to have a successful season, right? Miami from years ago would have lost this game. And, I didn't think Miami's coaching was extremely good in this game, but it was good enough for sure. And, I don't even know how much coaching it takes to just be Cam Ward doing amazing things out there. But as much, again, I said this earlier, but as much as we give Mario Cristobal a hard time for in-game coaching, Pry was atrociously bad tonight and cost his team the game. He looked like a deer in the headlights. He was bad on both field goal decisions, the timeout and the fake. And then he was really, really bad end of game. Like end of game clock management was really bad. And Virginia Tech almost still pulled it off. Again, I think they got the call right at the end of the day. I don't think it was a catch, right? And so you can say they bent the rules, they went around the rules. It's kind of like when there's a targeting that is by the letter of the law targeting, but something else has happened in that play, like a player's gotten pushed into him or the running back lowered his head as well. And so it is by the letter of the law targeting, but they don't end up calling it. I like that. I like when they say, no, the letter of the law is one thing, but like we're going to use common sense here and just do what is right. I think the refs, in my opinion, I'm not big on the conspiracy stuff. I do think that the ACC does try to protect their brands now that it's tied to money. But I wish they'd done that for my team at some point. But I don't think it's conspiracy. I do think that the referees probably saw it, probably said like, hey, it's not indisputable evidence, but like we're pretty sure that we missed this call on the field. It was controversial at that time. We probably should just not even have made a call on the field. We probably should have just gone to replay immediately. And so the right thing to do is it more wrong to bend the rules and not follow protocol, or is it more wrong to give the wrong team the win? Miami deserved the win, right, at the end of the day. Now, if Brent Pry wasn't an idiot, maybe they don't win. But the catch was, it was incomplete, right? And as a Seminole fan, as a Miami hater, right, like I can be objective and say that it was incomplete, right? Let's call it what it is. Miami's now got to go to the West Coast. They got to go play Cal, and then they have a tough stretch that we've talked about. They got Louisville on the road, Florida State at home, Duke at home. I don't think that one's incredibly tough, and then Georgia Tech on the road. Those are 3 tough games in 4 weeks, right? I know Florida State's not good. That's not me trying to hype FSU up at all, but the rivalry game is weirdly close at times. Florida State's got a good defense. If Virginia Tech could force some turnovers, like Florida State's defense is better than VT's. And that could keep them in the game. Will it? I don't know. Florida State's got a whole bunch of other problems. I don't necessarily think that I'll pick any of those teams to beat Miami, but I do think that Miami showed tonight that they're not invincible. A good coach on the other side would have beaten Miami tonight, but Pry is not a good coach, or showed that tonight he is not a very good coach. So I know I've been very critical of him, but you had a chance tonight as a 20-point dog to go into South Florida and win the game of your season. 3 weeks after losing to Vanderbilt. And your coaching cost your team the chance to do that. And that's upsetting if you're a Virginia Tech fan. It's upsetting if you're a Virginia Tech player. And so, yeah, brutal from him. So, all in all, a good win from Miami. I'll take that back. I don't know that it's a good win, but it's a gutty win, and all wins are the same. They don't look at the end of the year and they don't say like, oh, well, this was a good win or bad. Like if Miami wins the ACC, they're in. So, and they took another step closer to getting, or took their first step, right? Like this is their first conference game. They took a step towards getting it. Miami's going to play tougher teams than Virginia Tech, and so they are going to need to get better. They are going to need to improve some things because they will get beat if they play like that too many more times. I do think this is a good wake-up call for Miami, and I think they'll rebound well, and they'll probably beat the brakes off Cal next week. But it is West Coast, and we'll see, right? Really weird circumstance with a 10:30 Eastern game. So, hey, quick thoughts. This is not like a full breakdown of, the Miami-Virginia Tech game, but just kind of a raw reaction as I sit here at nearly 1 a.m. in Tuscaloosa, 2 p.m. Eastern, or 2 a.m. Eastern, giving my thoughts on the game and the ending and the controversy and, one idiot coach. So appreciate you guys for tuning in. Make sure you're subscribed if you don't, Canes fans, I know some of you don't love me, but that's fine. I try to be objective. And if you think I am great, hit the subscribe button. If not, then come back and watch these and complain in the comments. So I appreciate you guys. Thank you for watching College Football Addiction.